Good morning, Devil Dog Day Trade community. My name is Michael, and I'll be taking us through our day trading setups today. Let me get our TradingView platform set up here. If you are new to this channel, please note we do have information that is presented in ways that should resonate with any level of information or experience or knowledge that you have here. And we'll be looking at a couple things today. First of all, we're getting into a little bit deeper dive into our futures. We'll look at why the index markets paused yesterday. So a couple of good zones to look at there. And we'll also be looking a little bit at crypto at the end of the show here. So let's go ahead and get started with our normal routine of looking at what happened in the last 24 hours and then looking forward into the next 24 hours. And let's see, I'm just having a little bit of issues now with getting the TradingView platform up. So let me just talk through this real quick. I'm pulled up my Forex Factory view here yesterday. We didn't have a lot of stuff going on from the U.S. markets perspective, a lot of stuff going on in the European ones though, so that's why we saw some moves within some of the currencies over there, and particularly the euro with the announcement that they had for their main financing rate. Looking forward to today, we really have very little going on at all. Nothing from the U.S. market side, and just a couple small things that have already gone on from the Great Britain and also from the euro as well. So not a big impact today at all. So again, I'll just talk through what I normally look at on the DAX market here, since I can't show that on TradeStation itself. So we've got a little bit of weakness in the DAX, which we expected because we had that drop from the U.S. markets overnight or yesterday, and then into the overnight session as well. Just a reminder on the DAX, we do have some very strong 60-minute zones that are coming up at 15,300 area. So just mark that on your own charts there. Take a look at those areas. We've got 3 zones stacked on top of each other. There you'll see those very clear demand zone patterns in that area between 15,300 and then down the bottom one ends at 15,138. Nothing else that new has been created, nothing else that we're interested in there. Just note that there is still this weakness overall, and while I wouldn't expect the DAX to turn anything around, we'll see where the U.S. markets are now starting to show a little bit of strength this morning, and that should help clarify the pattern looking at the German markets as well. So jumping over on my screen to the TradeStation platform here, let's take a look at the dollar. And again, just setting the overall context here on the weekly chart again. I just want to show this consolidation area because that's what's most important here, what's driving a lot of this here. So as you can see, consolidation pattern is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We had little wicks above and below these areas here. So again, just not really good indication of which direction we're going to go. At some point here, looks like we didn't get it this week. So early next week, we should definitely see a significantly higher move up or down out of this area. We'll see if we can find something on the lower time frames that gives us a good indication of which direction that is going to go. Nothing changed on the daily chart, so we won't spend any time there. Nothing changed on the 240-minute chart either, so I want to just pull up the 60-minute one because this is where we've got some, just the really good areas of where the zones worked out very well for us. And so just zooming in on this overall area here, we had these 2 zones stacked on top of each other. If I scroll over, don't have a good indication of which one of these was going to be the more probable ones to work. The only pointers that I would say in this area here is that if you look at the wicks coming down in this spot here, and then in this area over here, you came very, very close to this zone, which means that you probably used up a fair amount of those orders there. So that was a small indication of why that upper zone didn't work as well as the lower one did. But as you can see, price did come into this lower zone, moved out of it very strongly, came back down again, didn't come any lower, and now is moving back up more strongly again. And again, remember the dollar feed on TradeStation platform here is delayed, but I've got the live feed up on another platform on my other screen. I'm looking at that, so we're showing some additional strength now coming back in to the dollar just in the last 15 minutes here. If I look up and left, I'm not seeing anything that's going to hold this back, and we are, still in an, generally speaking, an upper sideways trend trade. It's not quite an uptrend yet, but it is. We are setting, these new additional. You've got this high over here. You do have another higher high here, and each one of these lows. Look down in here. Each one of these is a higher low. So again, not a solid uptrend yet, but it's a upper leaning sideways trend here. And that's really about it that we'll look at from the dollar perspective. Pull up the VIX because this is going to hopefully show us some additional information about where the index markets are going to go. Daily chart, we're not seeing anything new there at all. We're still in the same white space area that we've been creating for the last 3 or 4 days now. The only indications that we have here outside of that aren't zone related, which is all that we trade on, is we do have the negative divergence on RSI right here. So that was just an indication that we're going to see this move back up again. So you look down here and you've got the chart's moving just slightly up here on the RSI and price is still moving down. So that negative divergence gave us an indication that this was a higher probability area to get this correction at. Again, we aren't seeing anything on the VIX that's a strong supply zone until we get all the way up into the 2950 area here. On a hourly chart, again, this is really as low as we go, typically speaking, on the VIX. We're looking for bigger moves. This isn't uses for day trading at all. The only thing that I've got that's even of interest at all is this top right here, and it technically qualifies as a zone, but if you look left, it did this pivot high, actually broke the other one. So and we've it didn't come, when it came back down, it broke the one on the little left as well. So it's a zone, but it's not anything that I would put a whole lot of reliance on to change any major directions in. As we're looking down and left, though, we've got this area here, and then you've got a couple of smaller areas down below where you could see price retracing back down here and then coming up again as well. So just really, you're probably going to end up with a lot of consolidation in this area, and prices just moving back and forth between these zones and areas for the next probably for the next couple of days, honestly. But we'll continue to track that. If anything significantly different happens, we'll certainly send that information out and see if we can use it better. I'll look at just one other thing real quick to look at the Euro USD chart. Again, we'll use this more as a correlation view as we get into our other futures areas here. I just want to see if we've got the same type of zones that we had on the dollar. And as you can see here, we did have them, and I'm going to zoom in on this whole entire area here because the picture's a little bit messy right now. We'll clean this up. I think we talked about these yesterday where we had price come in, missed the first one, came into the second one, got a short trade out of there. This one ended up being first one was a loss, second one would have been a break-even trade. And then we blew through this first one completely. The second one we did as well, but you'll see this was the mirror image to the dollar view here, and the dollar one stuck. What I have found is that sometimes when I'm trading anything, either Forex Euro USD or just the Euro futures, sometimes putting the stops based on where the dollar's at helps rather than putting them where the price is at on those particular charts themselves. So that would have been the case here. You would have if you would have moved the stop up a bit to the dollar one, this trade would have worked out pretty well, and you would still be in it. So I'm going to adjust this one. I just, full disclosure here, I did take this trade yesterday in my own account, and I did get stopped out because I didn't put that up there. But I'm going to move this one up here just so we have it as a point of reference moving forward. All right. So jumping in, now let's go into our into the features area here, and we'll start with the indexes because that's where most of the movement has been the last couple of days. And I do want to start with the Nikkei since that's a correlation market as well as a tradable one. And there's a couple of key points here. First of all, on the 60-minute chart, just to show what didn't work the other day when price was coming down, it was just price was just coming very, very strong down in this area. Even though this was a good setup, particularly that this zone was created while the Nikkei index market was open, it still failed. So mark that one off as failed. Now, interestingly enough, though, we did create a zone right next to it. These ones, typically speaking, have the higher probability of working. And so the other thing that I was talking about too a little bit yesterday is once you get one of these moves coming down like this, where price is going to fall, and we were watching price come down yesterday on every single one of the index markets, these are the perfect times to get into these continuation trades here. And so what you see here was this zone was created and you knew price was continuing to move down, so it would have been a really good place to get into a trade. I wasn't tracking this market live at this time, so that's why I didn't draw it out, and certainly didn't have a chance to get into it. But just again, a good explanation of when you take advantage of these bigger trend moves that as they're happening, these are just really good ones you can get into. Looking down and left, I'm not going to use a 60-minute chart to try and get in on any of this stuff right here. We'll use bigger time frames for that. So jump over to the 240-minute chart. Now I've got this area right here, and this area, while we have it marked as just an area to watch because of the way the zone was created coming out of here, it's not very strong. However, we've got some really good indications right now on all the other indexes, the U.S. market indexes, where this could be a decent place to go ahead and take a confirmation trade at. Keep this noted, and we'll look at the other ones and determine whether or not it's something that we want to try and get into. What I would say for the Nikkei, if you want to trade this, let's so this is 28.48 to 28.409. Would look at something like a 15 or maybe even like a 30-minute, just because of the volume issues with the Nikkei, and you would check this area right in here. And so what we've got starting right here, we've got this. Let's see, draw this one. We got this leg candle coming into this area here. We already have created the base candle right here. So if this next candle creates as another leg candle out, and then price continues to move up past this line right here, this might be a good spot to wait for that quick retracement back down into the zone, take it, and then you've got a bigger move coming back up again. So but you have to watch this candle, make sure that the zone actually forms here, right? It's not there yet, it just looks like it could be. And again, indications from the 240-minute chart and all the other U.S. indexes that this may be an area where you could form a retracement zone and get into a trade here. All right, let's start with the S&P 500. First of all, just want to get an update on this 15-minute quick retracement that we talked about yesterday. It was actually happening right as we were getting into this chart, and we talked through this about your trade plan having to actually allow you to take counter trend trades like this. But these are the indications, and these are the environment and the scenario where this might make sense, because you had a lot of other indications that this trade was going to work. And so my live trading plan does not allow me to take these, so I didn't take it in a live account, but I did take it in a simulated account. And so jumped in literally right at this exact spot right here. Price came right back up into the zone, just ticked up into it, grabbed it, and you'll see, right, moved, quite a ways down. The green line down here, I'll zoom in on this so you can maybe see it a little bit better, but that was my target for getting out of this trade, because it looked like, based on the 45-minute chart and a share bar chart that I'll show you in just a second, that we were going to get a price correction very close to this area. So this ended up being a 20-to-1 trade. And again, these are the ones where, so I did this in a simulated account just to track it and to see how it worked. And again, we do this enough times in simulation, and then when you go and review your live account trade plan, you might make changes based on your simulated account trade plan. That's where you'll try things and again validate that they work before you make those changes to your live account. Now, as far as why we got this bounce last night, and actually why this whole area is still showing some overall signs of potential strength here. So if you go to, first of all, I think I did talk about this yesterday. I also sent it out in a couple of messages on social media. Typically speaking, the day after an FOMC announcement, you'll see a 1 to 2% drop of the indexes. So for ES, that was that 90, but anywhere between a 47 and 93, 94 point drop. And so since the high was 47.43, we were expecting to get down to potentially as low as 47.43. And that is almost exactly where this price did turn. And it turned for a couple of reasons. One, that was our expected drop. Now we've dropped a little bit further since then. But we had this formation on a 45-minute chart, so not a high time frame, it's not a high probability for the actual complete change of trend or change of direction. And as you can see, this zone right here is quite wide, right? There's a lot of risk in this, and it's certainly not anything that you would want to take the full zone on and expect that this is going to hold. So when you see something like this, you'll want to look in a lower time frame to see, is there anything embedded in here that would allow for a good solid trade to come up, or maybe an area where you think potentially just a lower risk entry for the overall price movement to change. And so what I found on a share bar chart here on the 6,000 share bar chart, you had this, so these two lines right here, and I'll actually change the color of these real quick for you. So this was basically the same as the 45. Actually, that's probably not a good color. Let's see what's going to show up really well here. We'll do blue. So the blue lines here, this is just mimics that 45-minute zone. So I knew in this area, high probability that something was going to change. When I was looking left, you saw this really, really rock solid structure over here, where you had just a really good drop, base rally, actually base rally coming out of here. And so I said this whole entire area here is much lower risk, right? This is only 7 points instead of the like 30 some that the other one was. So you know what, price is likely to hit here, and this is where the bigger movement's going to stop coming down. And sure enough, you look over, went a little bit too far. So price did stop here, and I'm going to zoom back out again so you can see how far it moved. Price came right into this area here on a 6,000 share bar and moved up, quite a ways compared to the amount of risk that was in this trade. So this would have been just a really, really good trade to get into. Obviously, I wasn't looking for the full trend change here, right? These are too small time frames, but you dig down into there and you find out these are really good, solid areas where you can take very high probability trades at. So we did, and now price is still coming down again. We're still in this 45-minute zone, though. And so we'll take a look at a couple of the other indexes and see why we're struggling to get out of here right now. But that's why price stopped there. So just again, from the ES perspective, we did have this area up here that didn't work at all because it was very, very high on the chart. It was also, you know, right during the middle of the FOMC announcement move too. So we're still coming down to this area of interest here. Prices come down too close to this now. A very low probability at this point that this is going to work. So I would not take an automatic trade here. You'll also see why on the other indexes prices already down into this same area anyways. So it's probably going to be used up just from the other index perspective. But nothing else here, up or down, that's going to potentially change price action at all on the on ES. Looking at my 16-minute chart, or 60-minute chart, sorry. Again, down and left, nothing here that we're interested in. Looking up and left as well. The only thing that we had was just this quick retracement that already worked. On a 60-minute chart, I'm going to show you a few of those on the 15-minute and 2-minute as well here in just a bit. And then we've got this area right here. But again, this is a short on an index market, and unless you're in a confirmed downtrend when this happens, I would say, you know, just not a whole lot of probability that that's going to work out for you. But I'll mark these so that we can keep tracking them. All right, so jumping over to the 15-minute chart. And I'll just zoom in on this again real quick. The whole thing in. So again, if when you see price coming down the way it was yesterday, these are really good places to get back. You know, look for those quick retracements to get back into these trades. On a 15-minute chart, I think this is the same area that 60-minute one was. So again, just another good place you could have gotten in there. Trying to look anything overnight. Had some, you know, really good looking zones right here. That would have been a good place to get back in on it. You had another one, you know, if you were just tracking this again, really doing this live overnight, you had one right here because this very small risk, this trade here would have worked out very, very well for you. So just to know, again, good indications of where you can keep getting on these moves when you know that this bigger move is happening and coming down. And you had another one right here as well. This one's already been used though. So that's kind of the view you take, you know, again, when you are in these bigger moves. This is why you look on lower time frames and you can see the quick retracements to get back in on them, or to add to, you know, a position that you're potentially taking down further. So let's move over to NQ. This will be another really good place where we can see why price is, you know, stopping where it is right now. And here we've got just a quick reminder that we didn't break this upper area here, so we are still in this defined sideways move. However, sideways moves you can still take longs on, particularly in the index area. So this is an area of interest just because of the way the zone formed over here. But we're in that 45-minute time frame on ES. This is now a 240-minute time frame on NASDAQ, so a little bit higher probability that you could potentially actually see price change here, and then it would, you know, you might see a correction here. And, you know, if we get enough other indicators on the other indexes, this might be what actually pushes price back up through this 16,465 line here. I will look on lower time frames to find some good areas where you could look for that confirmation that this area here is going to work. A couple of other indicators we have here. Again, we do have the negative divergence on RSI. Price came lower. Oops. And your RSI is going up at this point. So again, so that's two indicators we have now for this area to be the one that is going to stop this overall move. Again, not saying it's going to push back up to the new higher highs, but at least an area where you could take some potential day trades on. Again, remember, it's Friday, weekend coming up, so make sure your trade plan allows you to carry trades, like these in the index markets overnight or over the weekend. Just a little bit higher risk in doing so. I'll come back to some more details on NQ, but I want to just kind of go through each of these areas to explain kind of why price moved the way it did over the last 2 days. So this was the other indicator that I used for taking that short in the simulated account on ES as well, because at the same time that retracement was happening, it was coming out of this area right here on RTY. Now we had said these weren't actual zones yet because price didn't come down and break this lower area of support at 2094. However, again, you put all the pieces together, and when you have more than 1, 2, or even 3 different indication, what we call odds enhancers, that a price area is going to be as pivotal as it is. That's why sometimes you can take these areas that aren't actual zones on one chart but are on another. So again, just showing you this was one of the indicators I was using to say, okay, that short was worth taking. As far as what's keeping the markets up from an RTY perspective, not really anything, honestly. There aren't any zones here. The only thing I would say is we're still close to. Sorry, I pulled back up on the 240-minute chart again. We're just really close back to this same area of support that we've had. You can see prices come down twice here, came very close to this line here as I'm just looking over, right? This is an area where this whole area is just a very large area of support for RTY. So it's price, it's taking a little bit taking a lot actually to get through it. If I look over on the Dow real quick, and again we'll go back through and look at smaller time frames on all of these, but just wanted to show this picture here. The Dow had already come down, so this area that we're seeing right now, the dash line here, right? So this is the one. Remember, on the ES we haven't gotten to this area yet. On the NASDAQ, that's where we're at right now and what could be holding it up. And on the Dow, this is the one that already worked. So you know that this area is just strong overall. And so if you looking left, right, there's nothing on YM that is actually holding us up at this point. So it's really the combination of the ES and the NQ areas that are providing the strength and not allowing price to get down through these areas right now. All right, so just going to run back over to NQ to just look for other shorter time frame trades that we can potentially get into. Just waiting for the 60-minute chart to pull up here because that's one I'm most interested in. All right, zooming in on this. We're not going to look down and left on a 60-minute chart. We're worried about either the 240 or the daily to manage that. So if I'm looking up and left here, the only things that I see are the ones that are already used. There's nothing else here. So in a 60-minute time frame, nothing that's going to keep this price from moving back up again through all these areas, and nothing that I'm going to use to get back in on it moving down. On a 15-minute chart, again, was not expecting a 15-minute chart to slow, a move back down from the FOMC. That's why that one wasn't taken. We had this same retracement zone on the NQ yesterday on the 15-minute that we did on ES, but we never got back up to it. Price movement was just too strong coming out of there. This area here is technically a zone. Now it was formed both in London trading and in the U.S. Open, it'll still be depending on what price action does coming back up here, it's probably going to be a short as well on an index fund or an index market. So you just want to be cautious of taking that. But it's a very good looking zone. So is this one right here. And if I'm just as I'm looking down through here, this would have been one of those quick retracement areas that you would have gotten into. And still looking back through this, overnight zones being used by overnight trading are usually okay as well. So you had one right here that was a very good one to take overnight. So you had been watching it at 10 o'clock last night and then setting up your trade to hit at 2:30. Just show those are all used, but nothing else here. Well, sorry, there is. Yeah. All right. So you got this zone on top of a zone right here. London markets open, so higher volume than just pure overnight trading. Certainly if price comes back up here before the US Open, absolutely grab it. That being said, we're in a lower time frame downtrend, so it wouldn't be unreasonable to take these trades right here. But again, if they don't hit right away when the market opens and you get a bigger, stronger move up, maybe after price drops down another, and sets up maybe coming down like the 15,600 area or something like that, and then pushes back up strongly. So again, just remember these still are overnight zones. They're still not good, solid, U.S. market open areas, and you are shorting the index markets, but these are higher probability ones just because we are in that overall lower time frame downtrend. I would not, again, these will be day trades only. I would not look to hold these over the weekend and not even hold them for more than, probably more than a few minutes to an hour. Honestly, if price doesn't come in and move out of there quickly, it's not going to work. All right, RTY. Anything on the lower time frames here that we're going to look into. And remember, RTY is much more in a downtrend than anything else here, so shorts are certainly open to be taken, liberally here. And so we've got, a good, very, very good solid zone right here. And looking up and left, I don't like this leg in for this nice base candle here, so wouldn't really be interested in that. But this area here, actually, I'm going to draw that one out. All right, on shorter time frames, 15-minute chart on RTY. You will just notice there's a massive amount of negative divergence happening right now in the lower time frames here. Right, price is continuing to move down lower, and RSI is coming up substantially right now. So just keep that in mind too. But as I'm looking up and left, nothing that hasn't already been used. This area here is the same one as that 60-minute zone, and the only other one would be this one right here. Yeah, actually pretty reasonable one. Again, just make sure that your trend hasn't changed by the time price comes back up into that area. All right, moving on to YM. Right, so remember the YM is definitely by far the strongest of all of the markets right now. So typically you want to buy into the strongest market and sell the weaker one. So you would be looking for your long positions on the YM versus anything else today. Looking down and left though on a 60-minute chart, I'm not seeing anything. Same thing looking up and left either. There isn't anything there that's clean enough that we'd be willing to take as an actual trade. 15-minute chart. Again, we're looking, more biased towards longs on YM because it's the strongest one. So as I'm looking down and left here, unfortunately, there isn't anything close enough that I'm interested. It's a solid enough zone here that I want to take there's clearly weakness going on right now, and just the way that you can validate that, first of all, this zone right here worked very well in the London Open. So when you see supply zones continuing to being created and working, there is still the overall weakness here. And then we actually had a very, very nice picture perfect zone right here, right, where you had this formation, right? You had your rally, base candle, drop, 2 base candles, and then drop again. And sure enough, price came right back up in here, and this zone worked out very, very well. The other one, it didn't come back up and hit it, so probably wouldn't want to take a trade here, just because when one of the 2 zones works as well as this one did, typically speaking, the other one won't work. So that's what we've got on YM. So let's go ahead and keep going into our other commodities futures areas here. And on the oil, really the 240-minute time chart is all we need to set context for us, because we still can't get through this area of resistance here. And we're waiting for price to get down to this 70, or 67.95 area here. This will be a very strong zone to get back up on a bigger move up. But as you can see, we are just creating our nice little box of white space right now. So we want to wait for price to get up and out of here, or down and below here, before we take a trade. And then that trade would go all the way through this area to whatever other lower time frame zones we have that's outside of this area. But it'll be a very, very good, solid, strong trade. So on a 60-minute area, you can see just another really good view of this white space and why it's here. Love to see price come down into, again, to this 69 area. Very strong zones here that we could look to take. On a 60-minute time frame, though, I'm not looking for anything in here. I need price to get out of here before I will take a trade off of these time frames. Now, that being said, let's look on lower time frames, because you can still take lower time frame trades in these areas. Just know that you're probably, the chances of you getting up and out of them are not as good until you move out of those higher time frame white spaces. As you can see here, we did have this zone here. I drew this as it was happening a little bit ago, right before the show started. And didn't get a chance to actually take this trade, but you can see here it was really good formation coming out of this small version of white space right in here. Came down, hit it, and is moving up out of here nicely. Just some areas to watch on this time frame. If you're in this or have seen it, you've got this one right here. Wouldn't call it a zone, it's just an area to watch. But you're certainly going to see price pause getting through there. And then this area up here, same thing. And not an actual zone, but just know that the price is going to struggle getting through here. So 15-minute chart, anything that we could potentially get in on a nice little day trade here. And again, oil can be very risky to hold over the weekend, so please make sure you keep that in mind. And you can see here, right, we've got a little bit of strength coming out of that 45-minute area. So a potential very quick retracement into this area here might work. Obviously, this isn't a good solid leg candle in, so just be very careful with this one. But again, quick retracement in, these ones will sometimes work out pretty well. The reason why price is moving down out of here right now is if you look left, right, you've got this really good base drop formation right here. And again, this is still in the overall trend. So typically, this will be, this area here would be a little bit stronger because it's with the trend versus anything that you're taking against the trend. Typically speaking, when I see formations like this, right, where you have, clear or fairly clearly defined zones that are this close to each other in the same time frame, that's just a good indication. Don't take the trades. Wait for something that's real clear, that doesn't have anything in the way for you. It's a higher probability that it's going to work. Looking up and left, there's nothing here that I'm interested in getting into on the this one. But I'm going to go ahead and just pull up the 2-minute chart real quick. Sometimes oil can give you some really, really good trades even on these lower time frames when you're kind of stuck in these white space areas. So again, we are a bit of the bias on a short right now because we are in a downtrend. However, all we need is a couple of more pushes up here, and you could reset your trend on the lower time frames. Nice picture perfect zone right here, and as you can see, it has already been used. Just touched though. So in a smaller time frame like this, very, very low risk. I mean, this is only eight ticks, right? So $80 a contract, or on the micro oil futures now at $8. So pretty low risk per contract right here. I wouldn't be opposed to trying to take this one again here. You could probably get a pretty decent trade out of there, but only if price retraces up in here pretty quickly. If it comes back down and comes back down below this area and then goes back up again, high probability you're going to have a trend change, which means these zones here would not be ones that you could take. Okay, let's look at our gold. We got a very nice move up in gold finally. Let's see if we can get out of the areas that we were talking about before. It was holding us back in gold. So I'm looking at my daily chart right here, and unfortunately, the answer is no, right? You still see this massive area of white space here. So on the higher time frames, we're not looking for anything until we break there, or until we set up some very strong structure that actually would work for us. And as you can see here, there isn't anything, nothing on the daily chart that's of high enough probability that we're going to use it. So 240-minute time frame. Got, for all intents and purposes, the same thing going on. Where if I'm looking up and left here, I am somewhat interested in this area right here, just because of the bigger picture formation where you had the white space form right in here, and when price came down out of here and it cleared out these previous two pivot lows, it did create a zone area. So interested in that, but you'd have to find something on a smaller time frame to really make that work. $60-minute time frame. We are approaching this area that is technically still a zone. Let me just zoom in on this and explain why I'm saying that. However, price came right up into it like this, didn't touch it. When I see this, typically speaking, what I'll do for my plan is just say, okay, I just missed the entry on this trade. I'm not going to try and take it again. But technically speaking, the zone was not used the way it was drawn out. And I did draw the full zone, so it's not like I had an entry that was way further in on the zone. So, it's not, again, not unreasonable to take this again. I really struggle trading gold effectively, so that's why my trade plan for gold is a little bit more risk averse than others. As you can see, we got, we may have already gotten the same very strong reaction from this area. If for sure, if price comes back down here, like all the way down to 1770 or something, and then comes up in, I absolutely would not take this. If you get another quick retracement up here, maybe with some negative divergence on RSI, maybe that's your secondary indicator that this trade could work again. You do have a very reasonable looking zone right here, though. Again, this would be one where if you get the retracement back in here, take this one coming up out to continue on with this trend, right? This is continuing with a trend, but nothing else lower and to the left that I'm seeing that's of any use. Let's try a 15-minute time frame just to see what else we've got here. And while we weren't certain that this was going to be a big, strong move up, I just want to take a look at the 15-minute chart. Were there any areas that were strong areas to get back in on this move up? And there's one right here This happened overnight, so unless you're a night owl trading, you wouldn't have seen this one. But the formation is superb, right? Very strong leg in, nice base candle right here, and then 2 legs out. When you look left, this zone took out the previous pivot high. Again, good solid indication that this is a strong zone, and sure enough, price came right back into it and then just took off from there. But that's been used now, so would not try and take that again. Looking up and left, you had, wasn't quite the same formation here, but close to it. Just drawing that out, right? You had the same thing, right? A good strong leg in. Not quite as strong of a leg out. You only had 1 leg out candle, but price did come right back in. And this would have gotten you probably, what's that, 5 or 6 to 1 trade there. So it's not, it's a very good solid one. Looking up through here, nothing else is jumping out at me that I would consider to be a strong area. So you had your initial area to get back in, and that was about it. This area here does have, reasonable okay candle coming in, a couple of base candles. You had a 1 leg out, price retraced right back in here, and as you can see, this still is holding price up right here. So again, not the worst zone in the world, but you guys have heard me say this before. I do struggle trading gold in general, but particularly on smaller time frames. So it makes me a little bit hesitant to call any of these things solid structures. All right, let's see. We've got natural gas. We finally did break down through our 240-minute area that we had set up that was based. So this 240-minute area here is inside of our weekly zone. But that's we were using it to give us a better entry point within the overall weekly zone so that our risk was lowered. So you can see now we came through it initially right here, come back down through it again, and we're starting to create additional supply zones above it. So this is an indication that these this may not be that big or stronger move up at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and take this other one off. This is still the line that we were looking for a price to come up above here and close above here to confirm that trend change up. As you can see, it didn't, so we are still in a downtrend on natural gas, even on the higher time frames. But again, this is the very big picture context. We're still in this weekly zone, so it wouldn't be a surprise at all that this holds, because of it is a very good solid structure. And on a 60-minute chart here, let's see if anything has changed in the last couple of days that would allow us to take some things. I'm looking up and left. Definitely missed this area here before. This is a really good solid zone, and as you can see, it would have worked. Smaller time frame trade, right? And honestly, given the fact that, especially when this trade hit, you would have still been thinking that the weekly zone was going to push things higher, so it wouldn't have been a longer term trade. So it would have been actually a pretty good one. Excuse me. But there's nothing else here that's that's strong enough that we want to try and take it. 15-minute chart. Yeah, having to think too hard already. So the only thing that's even remotely interesting right here is this structure here. Again, because you look left, you can see it took out all of these pivot lows as well. And we also said we are in a downtrend. Again, this trade only works if the trend is still down. Again, remember, if price goes lower down over here and then starts coming back up again and changes trend before it gets there, that would be a counter trend trade. I wouldn't be interested in it. But certainly, if price gets a quicker retracement up into here, that could be a reasonable trade. All right, so bonds real quick. So this will be another indication of why there's the potential that this overall area on the indexes could be one where we're going to get at least a medium-sized correction, if not the actual change moving up. Coming out of here is on a 240-minute chart. We have these areas on the 10-year futures, and taken both of these trades in our simulated account that you're seeing right now. And so this one did not work. That was a loss for us in this trade right here as we speak. So we'll see what happens. Right now we're up, just a little bit on it. You can see the entry point was 131.11, and we're down at 131.08 right now. So yeah, so this one seems to be working out. But again, remember, bonds and indexes are usually negatively correlated. So now that bonds are going down right now a little bit, that's another indication that the indexes could start moving up again. On a 60-minute chart, we had this zone here that was just an area of interest, or not sure why it's not marked. It's marked off as being used, but this hit yesterday, and I didn't catch it in time. I didn't get the confirmation that I needed to get in this, but as you can see, I mean, this area actually worked out very, very well. It's probably one of the things that I need to pay a little bit more attention to. Some of the zones that I'm drawing in the bond markets are working better than I expect them to. So I need to go back and look at the data just to see if there's some point that I'm missing on these that I can use to bolster the confidence in actually being able to take them. As you see, that's why price moved up here. There isn't anything in the chart here though that's of interest in taking to continue that move up, and we're in the 240-minute area moving down now. So again, I'm not going to be looking to take any longs on shorter time frames just yet. And what I mean by that is, so right here, we're clearly in an uptrend on the 15-minute chart. However, we are coming down out of that 240-minute area. So a zone like this one right here, which looks good, very, very solid zone. We're very high in this move and coming down out of a 240-minute time frame. So this is just higher risk to take something this high up here. But if you get down into maybe like this area down here, right? This is a lower quality zone, but this would be something that I would be interested in taking just as a quick day trade. Here, you might get a bounce off of this, like a 2 or maybe even a 3 to 1. And even though you're in that bigger 240-minute move down, something like this on a 15-minute time frame could certainly work. Whereas this one right here, I don't think would work at all. So just drawing that out and explaining that. I'll leave this one up here though, just to track it, and we'll see what happens. So I'm going a couple of minutes late here. I just want to look at the U.S., the 30-year bonds as well, just to see if we're getting that same move here. And remember, they were overall stronger on the 10-year bond, right? The U.S., the 30-year bond was a little bit weaker, so we didn't get up to this 240-minute area yet. The same one, right? This is the same formation that we saw on the 10-year. We didn't quite get up here, and now we're seeing, this wick forming on the 240-minute chart. So this might be where we're going to start coming down overall. On a 60-minute chart, there wasn't anything either here that moved this market down. So we didn't get any other indications on the 30-year that was going to push this down. Nothing down here, down and left either, that we're interested in trying to take to push this back up again. And then I just real quick to close this out. And sorry for the late start this morning. We just had some issues with trying to stream on YouTube. And so that's why we ended up just Facebook only stream, but also why we started late as well. So you'll see this really was the driving point on TLT. So this is the 20-year ETF bond. This zone is still working out very, very well for us. And then we've created these additional ones on the same time frame, which again shows the continuing weakness here. You will see, let's see, are we going to, yes, we're going to open higher. So when TLT opens here in 12 minutes, it's going to open, it's hard to tell exactly where it's going to open, but it may open up into one of these zones here. This price has taken out both of these pivot lows here now, so these are, I would actually say, change these to actual zones now. If price opens up into these areas, and especially that we've got the 10-year bond in a supply zone on a 240-minute chart right now, these become real zones, and either add to your position or take a new position here. We are probably going to see additional movement in the bonds down from here. And that's where we will end today. So again, apologies for starting late. Thanks for joining the show today. If you have any questions and you're watching this later on, please leave us a comment, shoot us an email so we can respond to it. And we'll, again, a little bit of a teaser for our crypto work. We're recording the educational video for that. That will be released on Monday. We're going through the rules process. You'll see that come out then. We're setting up the account to do the actual trading on it there through Coinbase. So again, you'll see the process that we're going to follow for that. And we're going to start live day trading a bunch of our entire cryptocurrency basket that we have on Coinbase there, starting on Monday. So look forward to that. Have a great weekend. Happy and safe trading day today, and we'll see you again on Monday at 8:15 Eastern.